At the end of February, as alarm bells began to sound on the growing spread of the novel COVID-19 virus, many countries across the globe, with Kenya not left behind, had no choice but to close their schools, colleges and universities as part of the lockdown measures to contain the spread of the virus. Since then, there have been developments with many institutions opting to have recourse to the use of information and communication technology to deliver their programs online at a distance to mitigate loss of learning. But while school closures seem to present a logical solution to social distancing within communities, prolonged closures tend to have disproportionately negative impact of the most vulnerable students. Bottom line, is the government prepared to cushion the education sector from adverse effects of coronavirus? Well, many thanks for joining Youthpad. My name is Franz Singala, and to help me break this down, I'm joined by Reverend Thegu, a lecturer at Presbyterian University of East Africa. Many thanks for making time to come and share about such a sensitive topic, and especially at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gala, for having me.
Yes, and you're a former Deputy Secretary General of PCEN.
That's true. I was the Deputy Secretary General of PCA as from 2012 all the way to April 2016.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, first of all, first things first, do you think as a Minister of Education we are prepared and as our exams on as we talk right now?
Well, if we are to take the word of the cabinet of the CS,
Yes.
the exams are on. However, the practicality of that will need to be broken down to many of us, parents, learners. Everybody would like to know how exams will be undertaken. But if we are to take his word, and the word of the president as well, is that the exams will be on this year. And he said there will be no change. The calendar will be as it has been.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's no any changes that is going to be made or even changed?
It sounds that the official policy is that exams will go on as previously. Though there are, as I said, there are many questions in the minds of many of us.
But what do you think as a lecturer and as a senior lecturer at Presbyterian University of East Africa, bearing in mind that the students and the pupils, primary school pupils, have not even exhausted the syllabus? Do you think it is right, and especially having the exams on?
Gala, that's why I started by saying that this thing needs to be broken down. Of course, all learners were expecting exams at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Those who got to any level that they got to, those in Form 4, those in Class 8, and parents as well, and the country was expecting exams at the end of the year. But due to the pandemic that broke out at the beginning of the year, then there's confusion because not much had been covered. So the questions in the minds of many people is, how do you administer exams when learners have not gone through the curriculum?
Yes.
Yet, the government is saying the exams will be on. So it needs to be broken down how that can happen, because it sounds very strange, it sounds a bit weird, because we have not been told what will be done in the meantime for the learners to be ready for the exam.
Yes.
Yes.
So can we estimate how much the COVID-19 interruption will and have affected learning in the country?
It have affected learning in a very big way. Remember, this pandemic was declared here in Kenya in mid-March, meaning that the learners were only in school for about 2 full months.
Yes.
Then the pandemic breaks out, and then the schools are closed. So little learning had taken place. How do we expect then that is adequate for an exam? I would think the best thing would be to tell us what can be done to prepare the learners for that exam, if it's possible to do it. And since we have minds in the ministry who are paid to do the thinking, when such things happen, they need to exercise their minds and tell us what can be done. Otherwise, just telling us there will be exams, it adds a lot of confusion to learners, as I said, to parents, and even to all of us who are stakeholders in the education sector.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and also talking about the extension of the learning, the closure of the schools. The
Yes.
CS last week made an announcement that the extension of the closure of the school have been extended effective on Monday, that is 4th May.
Yes.
Do you think the government is being rigid, knowing that the students have not exhausted well the syllabus? Don't you think that the government needs also to bend down and also make some changes, and especially so that the students can get enough time
I wouldn't say that they are not being realistic by extending the closure of schools. What would be unrealistic is saying that the exams that were set when coronavirus was not factored will be the same exams that will be administered in the course of the year. Unless there is another exam that will be set, which interestingly would only cover a very small area, because you cannot test learners. That's not in the philosophy of education. You don't test learners on areas you have not taught.
Sure.
You only teach or avail the curriculum, give adequate time to cover the curriculum, then you administer exams. Yes. Otherwise, we know that we haven't had adequate time to do that. I know there are schools that are able to cover their curriculum in 2 terms. There are some that go on even into the 3rd term.
Yes.
Because like for KCPE, the exam comes in November. There are schools that are still struggling to cover the curriculum as late as October. So when you say that what has been covered up to March, when students were just warming up to their class 8, to their form 4, is what will be tested, then because I believe the exams that had been set were tailored towards the entire curriculum. Yes. How do you go about it? I would think maybe what the minister would be doing, along with the KICD, that is the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is coming up with an abridged curriculum. Yes. Then look for modalities of making this curriculum get to the learners. And my thinking is that they could even revive the radio broadcast, because radios are very effective. Don't talk about internet, because internet is just, too ambitious for some places. Yes. But maybe radio broadcast, you can bring learners together, maybe in a ward, and the learners can be taken through the abridged curriculum, yes. And then we can talk about an exam. But at this point, talking about an exam is shooting in the dark.
Yes.
Yes.
But Mr. Begu, there's a whole range of issues such as the infrastructure. There's also internet connectivity. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's talk about online learning. Mm-hmm. How can government tap on this? Considering that there are places where there's no electricity at all.
To be sincere, online learning is a big joke. It's a big joke because the Jubilee government started by saying that it will provide laptops for class 1 learners. By now, they should the ones who provided the laptops should be in class 6, hoping that every other class has got their laptop as from that year. That has not really happened. So that is lost. Number 2, there is the challenge of having gadgets that can access online learning. Yes. How many learners are able to have gadgets to do that? Smartphones, laptops, tablets. How many learners are able to have all those? Again, even the teachers themselves. Yes. Some of them are not very conversant with the use of ICT. So when you tell them to administer what they themselves need to be trained on, you are stretching your imagination too far, because the lecturers themselves may not be ready to do such a thing. The learners themselves do not have the gadgets. Even if they had them, you need bundles, to power those things. But bundles are expensive. Even for those of us who use them, you have to be very careful, because you end up using a lot of money in buying bundles. Sure. So this, again, electricity. They said that they had connected almost all primary schools to the grid. Yeah. But that needs to be investigated. Again, if you had connected the primary schools, the learners are not in schools. So homes, they have no electricity to do that. So how do you make all those learners at the same time access education and be at par? Because you do not want some to be ahead and some to be left behind. So I would say the whole idea of online learning, even in the universities themselves, it's not really working.
We have private institutions that have adopted this online learning.
What we should remember is that in this country, people are not at the same level economically. There are people who are doing very well economically, and they are able to access internet and online things very easily. But that's a very small fraction. Yes. The bulk of Kenyans is not able, particularly people living in rural areas, people living in arid, semi-arid areas, people who are fighting floods now, people who have been displaced by the floods, people who have lost loved ones, people who are in anxiety. These are not the kind of people you'd expect to have gadgets and to have the ability to access online learning. Yeah. Yes.
And so, In case of a possibility of this, how prepared is our community? Are teachers prepared with the same? Have they familiarized with the tools? In case of a possibility of this, because we have seen many institutions, we have seen private sectors, Brookside, have adopted online learning. We heard the other day, we heard also UON also trying to adopt. I don't know if it went through. How prepared are we?
I would say that if coronavirus had given us notice that it will come at a certain time, possibly would be about 70% prepared for it. But now, coronavirus came like the Messiah. Who told us he will come, but we are not sure exactly when he will come.
Yes.
So coronavirus just came. No institution, no government was ready for it. You can see how it has harassed even the big economies. As for us, who are not ready at all, we have not prepared our teachers, we have not prepared our lecturers, we have not prepared our learners. An announcement was just made. Schools are closed. Go home. Then we started fabbling. No, learning has to go on. What method can we use? We hear there are people who use online, online channels. Maybe we can use it. But we are saying things that are beyond reach because the teachers themselves were not prepared to handle online teaching. The learners themselves were not prepared to handle online teaching. The parents and everybody else, even the minister itself was not ready. So when you say that you are going to make people learn online, I think it's a bit, it's using your fertile imagination of things that should happen. But going into the future, possibly. But currently, I am very doubtful. And not myself alone. Many are doubtful that this thing can work of online learning. Yes.
So is this a time that we can say the crisis has provided us with an opportunity to improve and maximize on our ICT operations?
I think...
Because as you have said that we have not prepared, so is this a time?
I think all along, we knew such a thing may happen. Although we didn't know it would come in the form it has come. But when the Jubilee government said it wanted to make this country digital, they had their priorities right. It's only that we talk much than we deliver. Hence, if that would have been pursued, possibly it would have found us in a better footing than it has found us. Otherwise, presently, we do not have the capacity to handle ICT, to handle online teaching, but as it had been, the dream was that is where we should be. So we should feel sorry, we should apologize that we never got there, and hope that this will be a wake-up call for all of us, that we shouldn't know the direction the world is heading to, and then move slowly. If the world is heading to a certain direction, let us go into that direction, because this is a global village, as we always say. Hence, let us have all what it takes for us to handle such things. Presently, we are at a loss because coronavirus came, it is settled, it is with us. We do not know when these lockdowns will come to an end. Although they are partial, we don't know when they are coming to an end. Because if you see the announcements that are being made, the numbers seem to be coming out at the same level. Yes. Hence, we don't know, we don't have even an exit plan out of this. So, after the 3 weeks, what next? We do not know whether there will be an additional 3 weeks. Our prayer is that this will be the final one. But that's our prayer. Prayers are not always answered by God the way we would wish them answered. God has his own designs. Yes. Hence, we need to be prepared early enough over everything, not just because a pandemic has broken out.
Yes. So what can you say in terms of maybe institutions, higher learning institutions especially, because we have seen this even going through with Mount Kenya University, because this distant program that they've been having. What can you say about higher learning institutions adopting remote learning?
I would say the institutions of higher learning may be slightly better off as a number of them, yes. But they are also below the mark. When you talk about online education, there are students who do online studies, but the percentage is very small. Many of them prefer face-to-face, classes. Even some who start as online students eventually find out that it's a bit cumbersome for them. So eventually they become full-time students because they want to attend class, they want to talk to a teacher, they want to, they want that state because that is what works best. So there are institutions of higher learning that have attempted to do online education. And a survey needs to be done because I don't think it has been very successful. Because even some of those students who learn online, they have a time they come to the university for face-to-face tuition. Yes. So you'll never find a situation where students are learning online all the way through the course. I know that happens in universities that are in the developed world. Students undertake online studies and they will never even go there even for a single visit. But here, even those institutions that are administering online education still provide an opening for those students to come and have a face-to-face with the lecturers. So it isn't a very successful venture. A survey needs to be done. But I would tell you, from what I have gathered from several universities, none of the universities is doing it. They talk about it maybe for marketing. But for sure, if you go to the ground, as they say, mambo ni tofauti. Yes.
Okay, so should government, the Ministry of Education, that is, have some puts and input on this remote learning?
As I started by saying, Gala, I think the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development could be sleeping on the job. Because I remember years back when we were young, there were radio broadcasts. When we used to listen to prepared lessons. And they were very useful, they were very helpful. They supplemented what the teachers were teaching us. I don't know, since that appears to have died, what they are doing, because now they should have moved us to the next level of online and such things. Okay. Maybe they should have memory sticks that they are distributing, yes, and saying, bring learners together, get a radio, yes, or get a player, yes, and let the students follow these lessons. And that could maybe prepare our learners, yes, for the exams. If the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development would have such things, because they used to have CDs, I remember. They used to have, what we used to call tapes that had lessons for every subject. The only area that would be a bit difficult is the practical area. But for other areas that are taught orally, they had materials for that. So my question is, what is KICD doing now? Because this is the time we should be seeing them learning about, even as we observe social distance, even as we observe all manner of hygiene, they should come and maybe bring learners together in a room, yeah, in a ward. We have wards. Students can be brought together, learners can be brought there, the Form 4s in one room, the class, without now even factoring the issue of where you go to school. We all are the same challenge. Maybe, I think KICD should be ordered to do such things.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's have some quick commercial break. Don't go far. I'll see you shortly after the break.